Welcome to the third episode of EA Spotlight Series that connects you to the games you love and the people who make them. I'm Nick Mazesco, and today we are talking all about Madden NFL 22 franchise and the exciting reveal of scouting. I've been waiting for this day all week long. Please join me in welcoming executive producer Seann Graddy, franchise producer Tom Lischke, and franchise designer Moonlight Swami, you might know him as, Andre Weingarten. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. I'm excited to talk about Madden NFL 22, but before we start, let's get a look at the game that's coming out, Madden NFL 22.
To the Super Bowl.
Making it tough on the Kansas City offense, making it hard to hear yourself think. Mahomes is saying the same thing. He can't hear anything. One final try now for Brady. Looking downfield for Godwin. He'll go for it. It's Mahomes. Pressure coming from Chubb. He just gets this away deep. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. He can't. Are you kidding me?
Now, I'm very excited to talk more about franchise, learn a little bit more about the scouting as a complete and total franchise nerd. This is probably my greatest day of the year. So, you know, the viewers are here to learn about scouting. I know everybody out there wants to hear about it, but before we get there, let's take a step back for a second. Let's go to Madden 21. You know, you guys just delivered a third and final huge update. You know, you added some features to franchise mode. This is a big year. Tell me how you're feeling, Sean, about how Madden 21 went overall in retrospect.
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. It's been a lot of work, a lot of feedback from the community, a lot of work from our team and these guys over here. At the start of the year, when we kicked off Madden 21, we got a lot of feedback from the franchise community that they were looking for more. They wanted more from their mode. So what we tried to establish with them is that we hear you, we're listening, and because our game is a live service, as we've said many times over the course of this year, that we can deliver more features to you guys. So as you said, we put a roadmap out there for 3 title updates. We delivered some of the top requests that our fans were asking for, like X-Factor customization, a playoff bracket, some commissioner tools, on and on. We can talk about some others as well. As we arrive at the end of the year, I think we're all really proud of what we were able to give to the community.
I gotta tell you, every multi-user franchise saw commissioner tools and we're like, yes!
More, please.
Thank you. I feel like Madden's so unique because not only do you have all these different modes from franchise to ultimate team to superstar KO, but then you have the different ways to play inside those modes. And is that a constant discussion of the guys who just want to go out and win Super Bowls, the guys like me who want to find the right number of where do I set the parking so that people tune in and give me some more money? Like, how do you balance that sort of development?
When we build something, and it happens all the time, like one of the features this year, we redid the hub for franchise for 22, but we got to make sure that works really well if you're coming at it player-centric or owner-centric or coach-centric, and there's just all these little cases that we have to figure out in testing and playing it and bringing in the right people and making sure we're getting that coverage. And sometimes you'll do stuff that, well, this is just straight up a coach mode or an owner mode thing. So then you have to talk about, all right, do we want to do that, or do we do something that applies to everybody? I'm
curious, when we're going into 22, we talk about the changes of franchise mode going into 22 and into 21. Were there any changes that had to be made in the team itself in terms of, just structure as you moved into Madden 22 to tackle franchise mode?
I wouldn't say there's things that had to be made, but in the case of franchise, we wanted to bolster the team. We wanted to strengthen it with more of our talent across Madden. We wanted to invest more in a number of new features, which means we had to put more people onto franchise, which we absolutely did this year. And then we just made sure that we had the people that were most passionate about the mode working in it, so that the people that are playing it are the people that are building it, and that's kind of where we end up.
Yeah, so the team in some ways built itself, like the franchise junkies, if you will, kind of reemerged, and I'm not going to look at him straight up now, but yeah.
Could be anyone here, I don't know.
Could be any one of us four.
That's got to be pretty cool for you guys to work on a mode that's been across so many different games. It's not a new mode like the Yard or KO, which are cool, but franchise has been in Madden for so long.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I started playing back in around 2002, I was 7 years old, and what did I play? It was only franchise. I mean, I play some Play Now, run around with Michael Vick for, days on end.
Worst kind of person. Everybody I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to everybody out there.
But I mean, that's what I did. And even if I didn't know in Play Now, run around with Michael Vick for, days on end.
Worst kind of person. Everybody I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to everybody out there.
But I mean, that's what I did. And even if I didn't know exactly what I was building as a team, I knew I was having fun and I was building a team. So as I started getting older and started investing myself more in the features, I really grew to appreciate what was there. So now looking back on it, it's a perspective of, yes, whether I was 8 years old and I enjoyed it, or I'm now 25 and I enjoy it, there are features that are relevant to both ages that need to be represented, because you want someone who really doesn't know exactly what they're doing to still be able to enjoy themselves, but you also want to give that depth to the people who really want to dive in.
Can I just say to all the 7-year-olds out there watching right now, there is a future. There is a future in Madden. If you're playing the game right now, Andre's the example. Come work for us one day. Keep playing the game.
As somebody who works in the gaming industry, I can tell my parents, take that. Video games was what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the cool thing also about franchise mode, is that there's so much depth in it for the nerds like me that want to adjust prices and deal with coaching staffs. But it's also the easiest to sort of explain to anybody. Listen, you're taking a team, go out and win a Super Bowl, build that team, do whatever you want to do. But I'm curious, and I guess Sean probably can answer this the best, it feels monumental from the outside. I'm sitting there going, how do you even tackle that? Was that a challenge at something so broad as franchise mode?
I honestly don't think it is, because there's so many good ideas out there. It's really a matter of then, okay, prioritizing it and coming up with a good design that pays that thing off. So, we'll talk a bit about staff management, but you can say you're going to do that. How do you build it? How do you make it fun? How do you gamify it and make it interesting? That's the hard part, but the ideas of what you want to go attack and the prioritization on the roadmap, I think, is a little bit actually more straightforward.
There's plenty of opinions on the internet for sure.
What?
Breaking news.
I should find out what this internet thing is.
Plenty of opinions out there. And then, so how do you take that and distill it? And then how do you are there some people that can stand up and represent the community interest and bring them in? And we call it the Design Council, and brought in some, really key people who we feel like are a good representative voice, bring them into the process, because we have all these ideas, and let's go through it and then say, how do we get the best ideas or the right first ideas? So that Design Council was part of the approach. That's why we're here today. Is like one of the top things they said made sense, but it didn't make sense as the first thing we did. So that, that being scouting.
Well, I'm lucky enough to be a part of that Madden Design Council, and I've been lucky enough to be involved in some of these feedback events in the past, and even at the franchise-specific events. Like, it was a lot of guys who played the way similarly that I did, but in the Design Council, you got so many different voices coming in, and I felt like we were involved way earlier than in past years. Was that a concerted effort, and how did that help in the development of Madden 22?
Part of it was driven by the fact that we had to get, we just knew, with the sentiment at launch and what we felt it too, we needed to get going. We couldn't wait for the next product to release to make progress. So that gave us the need to bring people in earlier. Like we were talking about what we're releasing now back in, I think it was September.
September, October. Yeah, it was end of September, October, yeah.
And the big fundamental difference is when you're talking about it in September, you haven't built anything yet. Yeah. And so there's all kinds of opportunities for change. If you're showing people stuff in February, it might feel like a long ways to when the game's released, but we're already at, things are pretty locked down and we're finishing things and polishing things.
I mean, that's a big difference between the two stages of development.
There's so many places that feedback come from. You talk about the internet, you talk about the design council, but you also have internal feedback coming in. You also have guys just streaming on Twitch who maybe aren't typing out a Twitter post, but are still giving feedback. How do you parse through all that information and find the nuggets that then you can take and put into a roadmap for a game like Madden 22?
I would say there's pockets within the team that gravitate to a specific platform. Like, I like to watch YouTubers. So we have a lot of YouTubers. You know who you are. I watch a lot of these guys. I listen. I don't comment or anything, but I'm kind of listening to their themes.
So you're a lurker. Got it.
I'm
Okay,
a lurker. Yeah. There's some guys and gals that are on Twitter that are listening to Twitter, which I don't go to Twitter as much anymore because Twitter's not quite as constructive as we might want it to be.
With EA in the handle, the feedback finds you in a lot of ways. But I find some of the best feedback on there personally, because I'm able to engage with those people in conversation. I think that's really why I still maintain that presence, because I can have a conversation of, someone finds a bug or someone has feedback, and I can say, well, what do you mean by that? What settings do you have? Things like that. So being able to have that back and forth and then relay it, personally, I find that incredibly valuable, and it's worth the mean tweets and things for all of that feedback.
I appreciate the fact that you're still out there.
What he's saying is thank you for taking on Twitter. Cheers. Now, I mean, I've read the deep dives, I've read the blogs, we've talked, there's so many exciting things to come out. Coaching staffs, talent trees, scouting, which we're going to talk about. Don't worry, we're going to get there. What feature, what addition are you most excited about in Madden 22? Sean, we'll start with you.
I'm going to take game planning as my favorite at this point, because I like to. Sorry, Tom, if I took that from you.
You're right.
You almost left right there just as you took that. Thanks a lot.
One benefit is it's going to allow you to game plan against a real-world opponent. Like we know the data for the Kansas City Chiefs or Tampa Bay Buccaneers and how they play, and we're going to use next-gen stats to see what they do.
Super Bowl, whatever.
Oh, did we win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I guess so.
It hurts.
Yeah. So I like that. So real-world data gives you information that you can use to say, I'm going to try to shut down, the deep threat from Kansas City, and then it gives a little bit of a boost to some of your players to try to attack that. And if that's not working, I can adjust in halftime. Two things we've never had before. I find that really compelling. But if I'm playing with some friends online as well, as we progress through a couple of weeks and through a couple of seasons, their data is going to be logged as well. I'm going to know what their strategies are, and I can game plan against that. And that's just fun, and so Swami may be playing a certain way week to week. He probably is going to anticipate my game plan for that, and maybe he's going to switch it up that week. There's a little bit of extra element of strategy in there, so that's my number one.
So mine's really franchise staff, though. The way franchise has been in the past, like, where do you get your power from in franchise? And it's building your roster. So it's kind of, there's this one path to making a stronger franchise, and we're just adding this whole other parallel path to say, I'm going to go build out my staff and change how my franchise plays week to week based on this power curve, not just my roster.
Yeah, I mean, to echo that, I think franchise staff and maybe focusing more on the talent trees themselves are really what I think is my favorite improvement, for the simple fact that, all those different layers get kind of that umbrella treatment of, we can really enhance beyond the system and give you the opportunity to shape your entire franchise differently every single time. I mean, to have over 60 different talents with all different types of power to them, and then the ultimate talents really have distinct power that change the way that your franchise may function, whether it be giving more focus players. I know that's something that, tying into the weekly strategy, 3 focus players always kind of felt restrictive, because I just didn't feel like enough players were getting the attention that they needed to become special. So being able to expand that up to 6 with that talent, I mean, that is an entirely different way to handle your weekly strategy and make you excited to jump into that.
So that's your favorite, really? Not scouting?
Yeah, no one said
Is it the
scouting.
scouting
Guys,
not-
we're
does
teasing
scouting not
scouting.
count?
Someone has to say scouting.
I mean, we have a whole
Mess up the
discussion about
tease.
scouting.
It's really interesting being in that group, because there's something that I might care about from a multi-user franchise that somebody who's just a solo player doing content, for example, they've never even bothered to think about. Like Commissioner Tools, I don't think anybody's in a single player franchise cares about Commissioner Tools. They are the commissioner and the only player, but at the end of the day, all the multi-users, I know in all the multi-user franchises were so pumped when Commissioner Tools got into the game. You thought it was Christmas Day.
Yeah, our philosophy is it's your franchise, it's your game. You choose how much of any given thing you want or don't want, so you can have the experience you want. So
Yeah, the way that I look at that is, we're building something to enhance your experience, and I don't want it to become a detractor for you because you're locked into one way of playing that might not mesh with your overall style. You know, I know sometimes I have a league where I just want to face the computer and I just want to blow them out. I just want to have fun and not worry about any level of simulation. And there's other leagues where I want a competitive, hardcore experience that is a totally different environment for me.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a multi-user league that'll let me win a Super Bowl. That's all I'm looking for. As somebody who works in the competitive sphere, I got to say, it's really cool to see these guys who are playing Ultimate Team on the competitive level. They're getting into franchise mode because they're looking for just something different outside of the grind that is the competitive game. And they're loving starting up these leagues with their friends, and everybody's picking a team and they're dealing with trades. You're seeing different people get into franchise mode, and I didn't realize that was something that was possible. I thought everybody just played franchise mode because that's how everyone got into Madden.
Yeah, I think what the biggest gift we can give people is the ability to walk away with a story. And that's what franchise naturally can do is, you know, it's the story of my league or my team or whatever it is. And regardless of how you play day to day, it's always kind of fun to go and build your story and walk away with what was this version of my franchise. And that's actually one of the things we're hoping to continue to push and evolve as we build out franchises. If I make the exact same choices from the beginning with two leagues, hopefully they'll play out differently, right? Because, you know, maybe I'll throw 5 passes to my 3rd-round draft pick receiver, and I'll get a season engine event, which says, okay, now it's about him. It's a breakout moment. What do we do? And we start building the franchise that direction. So more of that in the future is definitely where we want to go.
To the sideline. Oh, what a catch. Look at the move by Cook. Are you kidding me?
I think it's time to get into scouting. When can we expect to get our hands on it?
We're excited to get this in the hands of our players. It's going to kick off our live service continuous development for this year for franchise. So it's coming early in the season.
We're targeting this first one for September. First big beat of, you know, 3 seemed to be a cadence that worked for us last year, like 3 groups of content that we delivered through the course of the year. So we'll be looking at that same approach this year.
I know I'm excited. I wonder who we should talk to about Scout. Don't look around. I'm staring right at you, Andre. We're dying. Tell us what we can expect with the revamp of scouting.
All right, so
That deep sigh really makes me excited because I know that means there's a
moment.
lot.
We've been waiting for this for
so
years,
so
right?
excited.
I've been waiting a long time for this. So scouting as a whole is being revamped. Obviously, you'll still be able to scout players, but the way that we go about it is entirely different. We're moving away from the scouting point system, where you have a bucket of points each week and then you spend it on players. This is more making key decisions throughout the season that progress every single player on your board at different points. So you start things off essentially by getting a baseline scouting on every player in your class. You know, this guy runs fast, he can move well, he's strong. And then
you sounded like Mel Kiper right now. He's got quiet hands.
One of the big goals I had was I wanted to add complexity to the feature, but I wanted to remove some of the tediousness of it. So you don't have to go in every single week and feel like you're missing something if you don't. But there are key decision points that you're going to want to interact with because that'll shape how your board basically evaluates itself over the course of a season. So you'll be able to pick a position per each of your now 4 area scouts and a national scout. Rather than it just being a scouting department, you have individual scouts with strengths and weaknesses.
So I might have a guy who specializes in scouting quarterbacks.
Yeah, and you're going to send them out, the area scouts, to one of 4 regions on the map. You know, some regions have more schools than others, so we kind of cut them off a little bit at the pass, so each region has its merit to send a quality scout. And you'll be able to assign your scouts at the start of each season based on a preliminary big board. And the big board is changing in itself. It's no longer just, you know, here's all the players ranked. We're treating it more as a media big board. So a player has a few really good games in a row, right? And you see a news blurb pop up that this player just, you know, he's been dominant. You're going to see that he's going to move up the draft board. So the AI itself is going to draft players based on the changes in perception and evaluation of the players, instead of it being that, you know, you find this guy in the 5th round and he's the best player in the class and he just sits there. That's not going to happen anymore. It's really going to be a lot more that if you find that player and you really key in on them at different scouting events, you'll be able to gather a large amount of information, but it comes at a cost. And the cost is awareness for the media. So you send your national scout, and we call it focus scouting. This is one of the biggest milestones in terms of report completion that you're going to get. And when you do that, the media is going to be aware that you are attending this player's game. So if it's a 6th round player and you're sending your national scout, the guy who you want the best report from, to a 6th round player's game for that guy, they're going to be like, oh, whoa, this guy
So
might
I can't
be
have
something.
any secrets is what you're saying. I can't secretly scout anyone.
You can scout in secret, but you might have to sacrifice a little bit of information, right?
So if I'm trying to get that full completion, that's basically me sending my national scout in the front row, and everyone knows that I'm sitting there to scout this guy.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll have private workouts that you'll be able to do. Same premise, where you'll have a few players that you can bring in for those private workouts, and that'll give you a big boost in the report completion. But there's additional layers to it. So that big board ebbs and flows, and there'll be mock drafts. Well, right now we have it scheduled for 5 mock drafts over the course of the season. So as draft position changes, so does this. So if you need to make a decision on, oh man, I'm not going to be able to get to pick 16, and they're looking at this player and this position, I might have to jump them, or I have to change my plans on who I'm looking at. So the entirety is more information.
My first thought with this was, in a multi-user league, is it possible for somebody to throw somebody off their scent, to sit there and go, like, I know, like, for example, if I'm the Dolphins and I sort of know where I'm going to be, and I know the Bengals are right behind me and they're going to be drafting, and I know that they're going to be, wanting to jump me if I'm looking for a quarterback, can I start scouting offensive linemen to try to throw them off that, you don't need to jump me, you're fine, stay there?
Theoretically, yes.
Thank you. I'm looking to be a real jerk in my league, so I appreciate that.
That's one of those things that we talked about earlier, building it in a way that people who want to go that layer deeper, be it multiplayer leagues or whatever, that there's that deeper design there. That's a good, solid approach, I think. So,
absolutely, and we've talked with former NFL personnel, former scouts, media members who do scouting, all sorts of different groups of people about the scouting process. And the one thing that always comes back to me is the aggregation of information is the hardest part of scouting, because you can understand every single layer of a player's skill set, but if you don't piece it together properly to make that full picture, it doesn't matter. And that's where a lot of people get tripped up. You can see this guy's fast, or this guy has a big arm, but if you don't understand that, well, yeah, he has that big arm and he can throw deep, but because he doesn't have the mental processing or the awareness for our game's sake, then he's not going to be that guy that you would expect, or that he was in college. So aggregation is not going to be exact. You might not find their exact true talent range, and it's a range this year. Instead of saying this guy's a 1st round pick, it'll be round 1 to round 2, or top 5. Those blue chip players, those are clear cut. And as you get later in the draft, that range is wider. So we want to give you as much information as possible without overwhelming. And
I mean, I'm overwhelmed right now. I'm not gonna lie. This is unbelievable. I'm so excited for this. What would you say was the most important thing for you to get right when it came to scouting?
Obviously, the information itself, what we're giving you and how we're giving it to you, was really important. But the loop of what are the reveal milestones, what are your action points, right? When do you need to engage with this system, and can you engage with it when you don't need to? So for me, I staggered it throughout the season because I wanted to make sure that there was information relevant for you as a player at each stage of the season. And then the postseason hits, and you can focus on your playoff games. You don't have to worry about scouting at all. Off-season comes back around, boom, it hits you back up again, and that's when you really start diving in. You get the combine, the pro days, the private workouts. So making sure that you have something to do at all the relevant points, especially when the season lulls, and making sure that it stays out of your way when it doesn't need to be there. But you can always go in and look. That scouting tab will never disappear.
First of all, my favorite thing is these guys work on the game and they are locked into this discussion. These guys know about, like, I'm locked in because I didn't know. These guys are listening on the edge of their seats. Is there something built into the game that's going to prevent me from signing all the best scouts and turning the Cleveland Browns into the dynasty that they truly deserve to be? Don't tell me otherwise.
I describe it as there are tiers to your scouting department that you need to fill. So rather than it being, I have a certain amount of points, or I'm just going to sign all the best scouts, you have, let's say, 3 tiers. And that really modifies how much additional bonus you get when scouting a position of expertise. So it's really not that you're picking the best scouts, you're picking the scouts that are most logical for you. But they have 2 positions of expertise. And That's going to be a little bit of a teaser for something that we're going to be dropping in the future, but it's going to be there. And the second one is grayed out. You'll be able to access that at some point post-launch, but we're not going to get too much into that. So you're picking
That
your...
was the ultimate tease right there. There's something that's coming out, something later of teasing.
Yeah.
So, but the idea is that that expertise is really what's driving you.
Well, we know Andre, he's like me. He's a hardcore franchise player. I'm curious from you guys, do you guys feel like there's something applicable here in scouting to the casual fan? Is this something that's valuable to somebody just picking up trying to win a Super Bowl?
So the casual fan, when we asked them, said, well, what do you want out of franchise? Well, I want to win Super Bowls. And so how do you win Super Bowls? You build your roster up over years. It's how do you build your roster? You add players. Scouting needs to be really powerful and accessible in terms of I can make my franchise better each year.
Like we said earlier, we'll kind of monitor and see how players use it. And if we see some of those casual players going in, then we're doing something right. And if not, then we can continue to iterate on the design. I think, almost kind of designed it for our core franchise player first, because that's who we're hearing loud and clear from. You're welcome. But of course, we do want those other casual players that still want to build a roster in the way that they want to build it to use it. And so we monitor and iterate long term.
My game loop in franchise is much more go in, make a couple decisions, play the game. And scouting in the right now feels like, well, it even warns me, like if I don't go spend those points, they're lost.
They're lost, yeah.
So I feel like, okay,
Gotta go in.
I got to do that, even though it's a little bit nebulous to me what's happening. I still have to do it, or I'm losing power. And the one thing I don't want to do is lose power, because then I feel like I'm just that much further from winning those Super Bowls.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the other considerations that we had, where if you choose not to interact with the system, it'll essentially autopilot for you, and it'll treat it like the computer is doing it, rather than costing you for not interacting with it.
What you'll take a pass on is that granular control, like you'll bending your scouting department towards a certain need.
If you just like building a roster and just going through season after season, you can still get that as long as you spend just a little bit of time right at the front, right? It's not like it's week 3 anymore. It is preseason week 1 that you're jumping into scouting for the first time.
You get it right away, as opposed to having to wait for that.
Yeah, and your touch point literally is assigning which region. You don't have, your scouts will go out and do their thing immediately. You don't have to pick a single player. All you need to do is evaluate the big board, see a mock draft, say where you want them to go, and then let them go for the entire preseason. You could skip the preseason, and you're not going to miss a thing.
I'm just curious, like, I feel like this is the value of sitting down with you guys and talking with you in the Spotlight series, is being able to talk with the guys who make the game. And I think the biggest thing I think that is important to convey is why. And I guess my question is, why have you guys made such a focus on servicing franchise post-launch and making it a live service?
Gamers are 12-month-a-year gamers now. It's in the past, it would be I'd pick up Madden and play it for a couple months around launch, and if you're really hardcore, you might play it longer. But now that's not the expectation anymore, and we hold ourselves to a standard of we want it to be something that you'll do, a good chunk of the year and have it be interesting and fresh. We've already been doing it for years inside Madden but it's primarily been through Ultimate Team. So really it's laddering franchise up to that same sort of standard. Knowing that that's not the easiest thing in the world to do, because Ultimate Team was built to be good at that, and franchise was built to be good at providing a season in a sandbox.
And it is a different live service than Ultimate Team.
Yeah.
Right? Ultimate Team, you have messaging every week, almost daily. So you're going to miss some of that day-to-day messaging that I know that some people have been clamoring for, but that's just kind of the nature of the mode. It is such a large sandbox that it's just not as modular on a day-to-day basis, but it can be modular, and we're really emphasizing that on a yearly basis.
Ultimate Team actually absorbs new content and standout performances.
Yeah.
And it just gets added into what you've already built there. Franchise is not like that. I already have a story that's in progress. Yeah. So maybe we would add a scenario to the season engine that says, Tom Brady suddenly is still good. So you have a.
Let's not go outside the realm of reality.
It pains me. I didn't know I was walking into this today, right? After watching my Packers.
There's one person here that's really happy about this.
I know. You know who the EP is.
I wonder who designed this.
But we would bring that in via additional storytelling. Add to the story you already have. And in Ultimate Team, it's just oh no, there's just a cool new player that had a breakout thing, and I want to add that to my sandbox. It's just a little bit different.
Right?
Yeah.
Which you can't do. You don't want to overwrite everything you did. If we modified Tom Brady because he had a great week in season and you're in year 6 and he's now 55 years old, and he's.
If I'm the Bucs owner, I want Tom Brady to be really good. Like, the only person who wants
Yeah.
is the one who has that player. Now, I think I can ask this. Is there anything you can tease that's coming to franchise post-launch?
You can ask.
I'm asking. I am.
There are things we're thinking about for sure. We put a lot of energy towards resetting the baseline in terms of the feature set with franchise staff and the weekly strategy. Where we haven't put as much energy yet is maybe in terms of free agents and things like that. So that's an area that we think about and talk about is trades and whatnot. Is there something we can do there?
Yeah. What is the relevant information at different points in the year that we can raise to you to make you care about not just your team, but kind of expand you out of that bubble that is kind of described of your team-centric franchise?
Yeah.
You give you that
Make the
additional
league
information.
have life as opposed to my team have life. Like, make the league have history. It goes back to, we want it to be your story.
Yep.
And for it to be your story, the league has to be a big character in there, and the other teams and the other people in a multiplayer league have to be part of that story. The hub is the most complex screen Madden's ever had, just with the amount of information that it brings to you all at once.
Yep.
So we've spent a lot of energy on it, and we'll continue to spend energy on it. Like, how can we make your franchise more usable, more powerful, and more able to tell that story is a big part of it. So
I would just add, everything's on the table. That's the good news. As we said earlier, we're listening to the community. We want to hear feedback as we get into the launch of the season. I think we've delivered 2 of the top 3 most requested features in staff management and scouting. So there's some others out there, and we'll hear more as we go into the launch window, and we'll figure it out together.
Yep, it's the summer. We still have time.
Yeah. We might even let you to come back in the fall again to talk about features
thanks.
for next
I
time.
appreciate it. Well, I think the question that everybody is wondering is, have you guys talked about what you're going to call Madden 2025? Because you've already used the Madden 25 thing. Has that discussion happened?
Well, we're going to talk to the community about that one.
Okay, good community feedback.
I'm sure there will be suggestions.
Well, gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure talking about Madden franchise mode. I can't wait, and I hope the people at home are as excited as I am. And thank you for joining us today for this exciting look at Madden NFL 22 franchise and what's to come this year with scouting. Make sure you stay up to date to the Making Madden podcast, where you'll learn about upcoming franchise features coming this Madden season. More will come from the EA Play Live Spotlight series in the next few days. You can also follow @EA on Twitter or go to EA.com for the latest updates. And don't forget, EA Play Live is July 22nd.